Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Thank you so kind of being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Wait, I am having some issues with this mic. I think I had some issues earlier today. Bear with me, folks, as I think it's okay now. How are my peeps doing today? Anyhow, folks, welcome aboard. E2247 is in the house. Eric Hayes is in the house. Yvette Avery Herod, our beautiful United Workers. What is it? Anyway, it's in the house. We, let's see, I think I got that fixed now. It's clear now, the audio, I hope. Bridge MCP, Yvette Avery Herod is in the house. Bridge MCP says, did I get the glasses? Yes, I have my reading glasses, new ones, plus extras. And in case one breaks, I'm ready to go. Additionally, folks, well, these are all temporary because I'm waiting for all the cataract stuff to get evened out to make before I go get a prescription, because what I want is to get that prescription that I don't have to be. I can see far now. I couldn't see far before. I can see far now, but I have to use these to read. I want to get the glasses, not bifocals that don't look like bifocals. That's what I want to do. Anyhow, who else is in the house? We also have AVQ, El Senor Rotnin is in the house. Welcome, my brother Rotnin. We also have in the house, I don't know. I think I called everybody up. Anyway, we are going to have a great time. It seems like, as Michael Ledo told me a couple days ago, I was premature in thinking that my good friend was going to win. Helen Gim was going to win the race. She didn't win the race, but she gave the winner a gracious speech to, she didn't pull it out. It seems it's hard to beat the Democratic machine in those places like Philadelphia, those places in the Northeast. They have a strong Democratic machine that pays people to go around and make sure others vote. Something that progressives have a hard time investing in, even though they need to do so. So anyhow, John Cotter is in the house. He says, hello, PDR Posse. So is Brother Carl Cox is in the house as well. Welcome to Politics Done Right. We are going to have a good show for you today. Egberto looking starry-eyed. I hope so. I went and bought these cheap glasses to carry me over for the next few weeks till I get some real glasses based on whatever prescription I can get. Anyhow, the title of the show today is going to be, and I'm pulling it up right now, MAGA doesn't mind losing. At last, MSM calls out Texas healthcare, meaning mainstream media calls out Texas healthcare, and Hasan, meaning Mehdi Hasan, on fascism. And the subtitle is, Michael Steele clarified that MAGA does not mind losing in the short term. Texas TV station, meaning Channel 13, station finally shows the evil in healthcare within the Texas Legislature. And I must add, they did a great job. They did a great job in presenting it to the people. We have to do this over and over and over again. Mehdi Hasan has good news about where fascism is going in the country. Egberto, you want progressive glasses? Nice name. Oh, I like the name, girlfriend. I like the name. Progressive glasses. Okay, I like that. Maywood is also in the house. Welcome aboard, Maywood, to the show. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. Michael Rudnan says, just got home, walking way too much today, all sorts of tired. and it looks like one of my favorite sneakers are starting to fall apart. Guess tomorrow's gonna be shopping day. We'll be away. And when you get those new sneakers, my brother, put those new sneakers and sport the Politics Done Right shirt. Give us a picture of the new Rotnen. We want to get that up on the wall as well, if you are inclined to do so. Eric Hay says, why is he vetoing? Did it go bad again? Let me see. All right, using these nations. Okay, I think it came back. Let me read that again. Joe Biden issues a rear veto on Tuesday against a bipartisan measure that aims to reinstate tariffs on solar products from Southeast Asian companies after U.S. officials found China companies using these nations to get around trade rules. The measure passed by the GOP-led House and Democrat-controlled Senate bets against American innovation. Biden said in a message from the White House announcing the third veto of his presidency, whatever lame excuse he lets adversaries win, remember the spy balloon debacle. I don't think the spy balloon stuff was a debacle. I think it was a debacle for you guys, you know, for the guys. You need to find something. Now, with respect to putting tariffs on China, I wouldn't put the tariffs on China right now. And let me tell you exactly why. I would invest like hell and subsidize American companies that are doing solar right now. But if we want to keep the prices low on solar panels as we rebuild what the private sector has destroyed by shipping all our production overseas, we need to let in all those panels. Otherwise, we will get that word that you hate. Inflation is simply the increase in prices. As soon as we put tariffs on those solar panels for the entire country, raising prices, and the prices that, if you think the prices to put solar panels on your home are gonna go up, then you get the Republicans saying, look what inflation is occurring. Solar panel prices has increased. You guys think you're smart. You want the guy to shoot himself in the foot. Biden did the right thing. The Senate, the Democratic Senate was silly for taking up that measure. If they wanted to take up that measure, they should have subsidized that in some intelligent fashion. So no, the president did absolutely the right thing there. The Senate absolutely screwed up. They were selling out to the corporatocracy in this particular respect. Notice I said in this particular respect. You don't have these blanket policies. You have policies that are based on how it affects the American citizenry. And at this point in time, our solar panel industry is not ready to compete, but we want solar panels now. We want solar panels now. So if China is flooding the market with cheap solar panels, I say let them do it, and we can subsidize the American companies to encourage them to keep building and building and building to compete. In other words, don't put a tariff on the panels. Invest in American companies to right size the down price that those panels are going to have. Yes, we want some economic engineering here, sir. Economic engineering here, yes, we want it. It's called Economics 101, and it's called environmentalism. Thank you. All right. Eric also says murders are let out. Murders are let out. I think you mean murderers are let out on low or no bond, and this person gets 4 million bond. Help equate this. Both are gross and wrong, as there is violence. How you spin this for Lena will be interesting. I haven't read it. You'd have to put more in there. I'll read it some other time. Looks like they have to deal debt ceiling all around. Mr. B waited too long, and ultimately his administration fault. That's a joke. I don't want him to negotiate. I want him to issue the 14th Amendment. If he negotiates, progressives actually going to take a loss. Okay? Because that's what the right is coming for. The right is coming to make sure that some of the policies that progressives are wanting, they want to take away some of the environmental things that we put in there. They want to give back some of the or most of the things that haven't been spent yet with the what is it called? The pandemic relief. All these bad things they want to do. They're evil. All right. Let's see. Winner, chicken dinner. Oh, I love that. Winner, chicken dinner. Sounds good. You gonna give me a chicken dinner, Eric? All right, let's see. Eric Hayes, boy, Eric, you're filling my stuff up. Bree says, Egberto, you want progressive lenses? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Progressive glasses, see near, far, etc. No lines. I'm going to look into that, my dear, beautiful lady. Audio, better. Yeah, it seems like there must be a short. I'll play with it later on so that I can figure out if I need to get a new cable or not. I hope not, but I have extra cables for this. Our British MCP says Mike keeps going in and out. I trust that it's not going in and out anymore. Back, all right. Folks, let me know. I tell you, British, so that I get it real time, because sometimes it takes us about 10, 15 seconds behind. If for some reason I start checking out again, I ask you so kindly to text me, Bridge. I ask you so kindly to text me and let me know. All right. Continuando con lo que estamos haciendo ahora mismo, continuing with what we're doing right now. Eric says China put a bad product out for the American people and good for others. Same goes for drugs. If you really think China is going to have two supply lines simply to screw the United States by putting bad stuff out, when if they get caught doing that, it would simply mean we stop buying, and they want us to buy as well. It boggles the mind. It makes no sense what you're saying. Eric, sometimes you have to be careful where you get your information. You really do. All right. Egberto, the guy shot people with pellet guns and got 4 million bond, but Harris County the guy who was was shooting kids randomly. Don't you think he needs to be off the street, because it's not a crime of passion or something like that? It is actually him going out and hunting. I see what you're talking about. He went out there to hunt. I know the story. He went out there hunting human beings. So yes, he deserved the 4 million. Está bien. Okay. The first video I'm going to show is, I want to give when the MSM does a good job, like the ABC, CBS, NBC, or local stations, I want to give them kudos, because I want to ensure that they continue to do those things. And that's what Channel 13 did last night. Channel 13, go to the Channel 13 website. I think it's abc13.com. I'm telling people to go to the website because I'm so happy with what they do, and watch the entire program. I took snippets out for this narrative to explain, because some of the things that I'm saying with regards to the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, they can't quite say it the way I can, because they're mainstream news organizations, so they're very timid and they have to cater to all the people that advertise on them, etc. So they can't say it the way that I can. And by the way, anybody who wants to call into the show, remember you can call in back, dial in 281-823-7747. Again, that is 281-823-7747, and I'll take your call. But for now, let's go ahead and start the program with the first video, which is a kudos to Channel 13 and to further explain what has occurred, and I really mean this, in the evil done by our Texas Legislature. They are killing Texans. Here we go. I want to give Channel 13 some big kudos for what they did on Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. Unfortunately, it's a bit too late. The session is almost over in Congress. But I mean, they interviewed Joe Freudenberger, the CEO of Oakland Medical Center, and listen to what he had to say about insurance in Texas. We are the worst state when it comes to having uninsured people. Check this out.
We have the dubious honor of being the least insured state in the United States, which is not a proud distinction.
Now, it is interesting, right? It is interesting. The excuse that David Balat, I want you to listen to David Balat. He's right on healthcare. What a name, right on healthcare. Listen to what he had to say as far as the reason why we shouldn't take the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. Again, 40 states take it because all these states right now have paid their money into it. Listen to what he said as far as why it is that we shouldn't take the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act.
Medicaid expansion is extending that out to able-bodied adults. We have to take into consideration those people who are most vulnerable that would be crowded out by the added folks into the program with an already limited supply of physicians and facilities.
What is extremely sad about that is that he's telling you, well, you know, there are not enough doctors or it would overburden the system. What a pot of crap that is. First of all, when people are getting ready to die, those that have no insurance right now because they don't have the expanded health care, you know what? The system still has to take them. When they get into the emergency room, the system has to take them. The only difference here is the system will milk that person for whatever they're worth, and then the state has to come up with the rest. Now, I want you to understand this. This is the most inhumane thing one could possibly do, to give as an excuse that you are not going to provide health care to some because for some unforeseen reason, they won't be able to be seen. And it seems to me like what you should be saying is, if we don't have enough doctors, get doctors trained. If our healthcare system cannot take care of the people within the country, then we have a failed healthcare system. If the services that your country provides cannot handle everybody in that country, it is a failed system. You cannot have the best healthcare system in the world if, for some reason, everybody doesn't have healthcare. Now, if you want to understand what's worse in this entire system, understand this. The way the Medicaid system works right now, the federal government pays for 60% of it, and the state has to pay 40% of it. If a state decides to accept the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, that changes completely. The state will have to insure more people, but the state is only responsible for 10% of the cost. The federal government is responsible for 90% of the cost. Why is that? All the states, whether you accept Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act or not, you are all paying the taxes that covers the Affordable Care Act. You're still paying the taxes, whether you accept the Medicaid expansion or not. It is an ideological thing in Texas. In the 10 remaining red states that refuse to accept the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, they prefer to have their citizens dead. They prefer to have their citizens virtually murdered than to provide them the health care that is there for them to have. It is hard to understand why the media. I was completely impressed with the coverage that Channel 13 just gave the issue. They did it in a completely cogent manner. Of course, they cannot speak to some of the issues that we can speak here at, because again, we're independent. We're not dependent on ads from corporations or from anything like that. The government can't control the things that we say. They can't shut down our FCC license or anything like that. It behooves me that most Texans that continue to vote for those charlatans, that continue to vote for those evil people in Austin, don't understand that the monies are there for them to use. The monies are there. Listen to this little piece from the Channel 13 piece as well. It is so important that we understand this concept. It is so important that folks understand that it is a choice we are making to kill Texans who get sick. We are making that choice because of those we decided to elect, for those who we decided to believe. Check this out.
Right now, the federal government pays for 60% of Texas's Medicaid program, with the state picking up the rest of the cost. Under expanded Medicaid, the feds would pay for 90% of the program, with the state only having to contribute 10%.
Now, we have Texas Senator Nathan Johnson. He's been pushing to attempt to put some soul, to put some humanity, to put some humaneness into these Republicans in the state legislature in Texas. Please provide folks with health care. It's a travesty that we, the country that likes to claim that we have the best healthcare system in the world, in a country, in a state that has the medical center where people fly from all over who have the means to pay, come here to pay for services Texans can't use. People, listen to what the Texas senator had to say.
What we're talking about is taking the tax dollars that we're all paying in federal income tax that go off to Washington, that are currently being sent to 40 other states to cover healthcare costs, but not to Texas. It's a tragic failure of vision on the part of the politics of the state.
Earlier on my internet show yesterday, one of the listeners said, we can't do anything. It's the government and we don't have control of the government. To which I told him, that is the saddest thing that I've heard all day. We do have control. If we did not elect Dan Patrick, if instead we elected Michael Collier as our lieutenant governor, the most powerful elected office in the state of Texas, if instead of electing that crook that we have as the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, if we had elected instead Beto O'Rourke, we would have had Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. All those rural hospitals that continue to close around Texas would remain open. All those hospitals that have already closed in Texas would get a rebirth. All those people in rural areas, in urban areas without health care, suddenly they could see a doctor. And don't tell me we don't have enough doctors, because if you're telling me we don't have enough doctors, what you're saying is you have relegated a segment of your population to live a life of illness and death. We have to call it out as it is. It's a failed governmental system that prevents Texans from having access to health care that is there for them to have, except that the politicians that they elected, the Republican politicians that they elected, decided to deny them care, decided to deny them health care, decided to put a death sentence on a large percentage of the population, much of whom voted for them. Absolutely so. Let me tell you, Bridge, your last question. Egberto, so what does that state do with that money? Actually, Texas is so irresponsible, right? Let me explain what occurs right now. Right now, Texas, every state offers Medicaid, and they have how you qualify for Medicaid based on income, etc. But there is this small window of people, and rural America, when you're listening to this podcast, I want you to understand this. This is not about progressive or conservative. This is about the people that you are electing getting you killed. Let me explain. The way Medicaid works, there is a small window of very poor people who have no assets. They qualify for Medicaid. In other words, if you have assets, if you have land, if you have all these other things, right? Before you qualify for Medicaid, you have to unload all of your assets, and most of your assets. There are some exceptions, but pretty much. So here again, this is important for people to understand. If you don't want, or rather, if you want to qualify for that level of insurance, you have to liquidate everything. So you don't have anything to live on. If you got the bad luck that you're going to get a sickness, that the private insurance that you can't afford private insurance, and you have to be poor to get the Medicaid. If you're not poor, which that's most people who are not poor, I tell you what, let me put you on, let's hold for a minute and go ahead and get the phone. All right, let's see. Who do I have the honor of speaking to? Hello.
Hey, this is Tom Jones. Is this Wills?
Hello.
Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
go
this is
ahead.
Tom Jones. Is this Willis?
Yes, it is. Who are you trying to reach?
Yeah, I'm trying to reach Willis, Alberto.
I think you're not calling our program. You may be calling just for a sale, so I can't take you right now. All right. Anyhow, let's do this. This is what we really need to talk about. If you are very poor, you get aid in Texas, just fine. You get aid in Texas, just fine. The state is responsible for paying 40% of whatever your medical bill turns out to be, and the state and the federal government gives 60%. So Texas is on the hook for 40%. Now, every state that takes the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, you no longer have to be dirt poor to get that insurance policy. The Medicaid expansion actually puts you at not below poverty level, but above poverty level for you to still qualify for Medicaid. There are a lot of people that are working 2 and 3 jobs. They're working hard. They cannot afford health care. They just need a helping hand. That's what the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act does. Okay? And if the state, and by the way, the only reason it had to be written that way, the way they did it, the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, is because Senator Kennedy died. Senator Kennedy died before all the machinations could come up. And since they had to pass the law in 2 pieces, one that required all 60 votes and one that required just a 50-vote majority, 51 votes. People don't understand all these technicalities that occurred. Anyway, so if you are not super poor, you're working hard, you're making it, you just can't afford health insurance, then you can go ahead and get, if you take the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. But it's even better for Texas, because if you get the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, Texas at that point now, they only pay 10% of the Medicaid bill, and the federal government pays 90% of the bill. So Texas is being fiscally irresponsible by not accepting the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, because for this amount of people that they're accepting, they're paying 40% of the bill. If they just went with the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, they only pay 10% of the bill. It is bewildering that just because of ideological reason, and that ideological reason becomes a sense of evilness. I want you to understand this. I need you to understand this. It's the evil in the legislature in Austin why many Texans will die. Many Texans will die because Dan Patrick, because Greg Abbott, because the Republican legislature decided for ideological reasons they will not give their citizens that health care. And now, because they would not give their citizens that health care, guess what happens? People can't go to doctors at rural hospitals. So what happened to the rural hospitals? They close, which is what's been happening around the country. In the red states, that is. Rural hospitals closing. And just as a matter of information, Bridge MCP, Texans are already paying into the federal government for that Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. They just get nothing in return. They get nothing in return for all the taxes you pay on your monies. All the taxes every Texan pays go straight into the coffers of the United States. And they then pay California healthcare, Medicaid expansion in California. They pay Medicare expansion in New York. They pay Medicare expansion in North Carolina. They pay Medicare expansion in Oregon, Washington, and all these other places. And Texans, all these other states, thank you because of who you have as your lieutenant governor, and a derelict and evil Republican legislature that is telling you, I rather you dead than giving you insurance. Egberto think it's all free. I know nothing that says it's all free. Again, Eric, I laid out the facts. You have your choice. You can decide to accept it or not. And those who decided not to accept it, they're killing Texans. There are no two ways about it. They are killing Texans. And if you are happy with that, if you can go to church on Sunday, if you can go to your synagogue on Sunday, if you can go to your mosque on Sunday and feel it's okay that there is an insurance policy out there for that an extra 1.4 million Texans can take advantage of. But for ideological reasons, you're saying, absolutamente no. I don't want to take it because it's Obamacare. If you can say that and think you're humane, if you can say that and think you're not evil, then good luck to you. Because that is the definition of evil. That is the definition of insanity. That is the definition of fiscal irresponsibility. And that finally we had a mainstream media station lay it out for all Texans to see. And for them to also, one of the adversaries of this, for them to come out and say, oh, we don't want to take that Medicaid expansion because too many people are going to see the doctor. That is equivalent to saying we don't want too many people seeing the doctor. So if all the people that need to see the doctor can't see the doctor, then they die. Lee Grant says, Egberto, you complain about Texas as a debtor state being subsidized by blue states, but this expansion will increase that supposed indebtedness. Who cares? It saves lives. When it comes to healthcare, I don't care about debtor or not debtor. I want every Alabamian. I want every Louisianian. I want them all to get health care. At this point, it's not about debtor and all that kind of stuff. I also want Texans to start raising their taxes in such a manner that they can pay teachers more, that they can pay their workers more. So no, it is evil. And all that support them, everybody who has voted Republican in the state of Texas has voted to kill your neighbor. There's no two ways about it. You may not have done so. You may not have done so that you wanted to do it, but now you have the information. So the next vote you make, after listening to Politics Done Right today, after listening to what Channel 13 had to say, remember, you know now, anybody who votes for the Republican legislature, you know now that a vote for your Republican legislature is a vote to kill your neighbor. There's no two ways about it. There are absolutely no two ways about it. And when you go to church on Sundays and you're asking Jesus Christ for forgiveness, you're asking God for forgiveness, remember, you must also ask him for forgiveness for being an accessory to murder. When you go to your mosque, go knowing you are an accessory to murder, because you know now that the monies are there to protect and to save your fellow citizen, and you chose not to do it with your vote. And these politicians know better. Michael Rodney said, Egberto, poll conservatives about Affordable Care Act, then poll conservatives about Obamacare. I'll bet you get a noticeable gap. You do. We've done that test before when it was called Connect Care in Kentucky. They didn't call it Obamacare in Kentucky. They were one of the first red states to accept the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. They just called it Connect Care. All right, let's see what else we got. We've successfully endured birth of the universe, creation of stars and galaxies, formation of the living earth, and rise of human consciousness. Now we got to deal with cruel Republicans. What the waste? That's E2247. Let's see what else. What did I miss? Let's see. But he says the people that need in Texas can't move to another state. That's the thing. People in need, they're frozen where they're at. But what they're not frozen about is going out to vote. But we have to go where they're at so that we can inform them of the truth. And if they know the truth, then they'll vote appropriately. But we have to constantly let them know the truth as opposed to the lies that are coming over the airwaves. And again, that is what for me was so impressive with the Channel 13 piece. I put the link in there. I want you guys to, especially here in Texas, to go see the piece. They weren't as rough on the Republican politicians as I was. But I want you to know that now that you know that, every vote for a Republican is a vote to kill your neighbor, to kill some of your neighbors. It is so important that be realized. Egberto, remember Massachusetts did great with what we call the ACA Obamacare, yeah, way before it was ACA. No complaints there. Actually, that's what Romney did. Romney worked with, again, Obamacare is a Republican bill. It's a private insurance bill. It's a Republican bill. And it's only when Obama adapted it and Democrats adapted it that somehow it became a problem. But it's a bill that Republicans had wanted long time ago because it still expanded on using private health care, etc., health insurance. They don't tell you that, and the media doesn't come out and tell you these truths that need to be told. All right, change the subject. It's time for us to move on to the other thing. Michael Steele has a message for, well, before I go, a message on MAGA losing. I don't know if you guys realize yesterday the Republicans lost Jacksonville. Every major city they lose. Okay, so let's go ahead and play that, and then we'll take it on the other side. We know Republicans have been losing races left and right. All the those who believe that Donald Trump won, the MAGA folks, they've been losing all over the country. And many see that as being, oh, MAGA is going down. And sometimes I think that as well. But Michael Steele said something that's interesting today. Today they lost the last large city controlled by Republicans, the top 25 controlled by Republicans. They lost it in Florida today, in the home of DeSantis. And, everybody's saying, look, they're not winning. They continue to lose. Michael Steele, the former chairman of the Republican Party, sees a bit differently. I want you to listen to what he had to say, and then we'll take it on the other side.
He doesn't even have the skills to get fellow Republicans that he endorsed elected in Florida. Tonight, there was a huge upset in the Jacksonville mayoral race. A Democrat won. Okay. A Democrat has not won there in ages. Joe Scarborough, who should have been asleep, but was awake, and he tweeted this: Democrats just flipped the biggest city Republicans controlled, and they did it in the heart of DeSantis country. Trump's Republicans keep losing in places like Jacksonville, Wisconsin, and Kansas. How long will they keep driving their car off the cliff? What do you think?
It's not even, what's funny about that? I love that analogy. For me, it's like they don't really drive the car off the cliff. Is they drive the car to the edge of the cliff, and then they take it apart and throw the parts over the cliff. It's just because that's what they're effectively doing in all of these little races that are adding up to a lot of losses. But they don't see it that way. This is not so much in the traditional sense of winning and losing. This is about how you, over time, amass a degree of power that forces your will and your way on the general populace. And we've already begun to see some of the effects of that. So, I think we need to be careful instead of looking at this as a balls and strikes kind of game. The Trump people are playing long ball here. They're not trying to win it all in one election cycle. They have systematically taken control of the RNC. They've systematically taken control of boards of elections, school boards across the country. Look at the big picture and understand exactly what's happening instead of focusing on one little horse race. Not diminishing what just happened in Florida, but just recognize they're not as put out as you may think they should be, because, okay, that's a loss in a longer game of winning. And that, from them, is the end game.
I'll be honest with you. I never thought about it as, I've thought about them playing the long game, but I never thought of the long game including losing. Because in losing, they're also breaking the system that they themselves hope to rebuild. Interesting. Michael Steele, I think, nailed it. And that's why, in as much as they keep losing, they continue to push the same crap. Because they figure at some time it's going to turn around. They figure at some time it's going to turn around. Michael Rodden says Medicare for All would save Americans $500 billion per year. We are already paying insurance premiums, co-pays, deductibles, routinely getting denial of coverage. Medicare for All would fix all of that. Your increased taxes would be less than what you're paying in private coverage, while making sure you get proper health care coverage. Peace of mind, unless you are distrustful of government while simultaneously loving being under bootle of the very corporations that are price gouging you. Actually, that couldn't be said any better. We have to start understanding the truth. We need to start understanding the truth. There is health insurance does not belong in the private sector. It's only there in the private sector to skim your money, to take your money. It's a hard sell for people, because what Republicans have been successful in doing is, first you have to make the government unbearable to some. So you discredit government. You've got to get government discredited. Okay, you have to get government discredited. And that's what they've spent years doing. And then if you get government discredited, when you say, okay, we're going to give healthcare to all that is run by the government, suddenly, oh no, we can't have anything running with the government. Look at how they run the post office. And again, the post office is run very well. The post office has every address of every person in this country. And they can get before it was taken over by the clown that Donald Trump put in office, they could get a first-class letter to just about any part of the United States in a day for 50-something cents. FedEx and UPS can't do it for under $5. Think about that. So when we talk about the efficiency of government, even though the post office, a lot of people say, oh, but the post office isn't particular government. Well, why do you treat it like government when you're talking about their health care, etc.? You know, you know who delivers to places that UPS and FedEx won't go? The post office. The post office is much more efficient than UPS. The post office is much more efficient than FedEx. All the technology that they use at the post office, developed and tested, bar scan reading in real time, all these things, then skimmed off by the private sector, and then we want to take the lucrative portions of the post office. We got to keep them there because it's constitutional. But then we want to rip off the parts of the post office that makes the most money. Folks, we've been had so many times, and just because we are so ill-informed, just because we know so little, and just because we are willing to accept what corporations tell us, which they're doing it for themselves, as opposed to somebody like those of us in this media forum that have no axe to grind, none whatsoever. It's amazing, but people are getting smarter. They're getting smarter, and we are going to keep doing what it takes to inform. We will never stop. We'll keep informing. Danielle says, I'm proud to announce I have been voting to kill my neighbors 30 years. Not much success. They're still alive. That sounds like something you would say. No, I want people have to hear some of this brief, some of this. Okay. Let's see. Daniel Ledo doesn't recognize that jokes like that are what brands you as deplorable. That's actually true. Let's see. Attention, Daniel. What a twisted comment. Yep. Hey, look, again, Donald Trump made doing that kind of commentary vogue. That's what Lord Trump has done. That's what Lord Trump has done. All right. Last video of the day. It's about Mehdi Hasan. We've been concerned about fascism in this country as Donald Trump has been trying his utter best to institute a fascist ideology that has a nice taste on it. And how does he give a fascist ideology a nice taste? By tempering it with a tint of white supremacy. But you know what? It's not really working too well around the rest of the world. I want you to listen to my good brother Mehdi Hasan, and then we'll take it en el otro lado. Mehdi Hasan, one of the reasons I like a lot of these journalists that see things from the external point of view, etc., is that they're not insulated as many of the journalists here are on these different networks. Mehdi Hasan is a great example. He was able to take a look at fascism. We are thinking right now that, my God, the world is moving toward fascism because the United States is with Donald Trump and MAGA. But what he's pointed out throughout the world right now is that fascism is not on it was on the increase, but now it's really on the decline. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I have been warning about the threat to democracy since I joined this network. In fact, the very first edition of this show that I guest hosted back in the summer of 2020 began with me saying the F word, fascism. And regular watchers of this show and this network will have heard a lot in recent years about the creeping threat of authoritarianism worldwide. And it's true that we find ourselves at a precarious time in the fight against autocracy. But that is why it is all the more important to note that there is pushback against that creeping authoritarianism. It isn't all doom and gloom. Following this weekend's elections in Turkey, for example, President Erdogan, a model for would-be authoritarian strongmen worldwide, will be forced into a historic runoff election next month after he failed to clear 50% of the vote. Erdogan, in many ways, is who Donald Trump wishes he could be. During his 2-decade rule, he has eroded key freedoms and rolled back democratic rule. And to be clear, Erdogan could still win. In fact, he's likely the favorite to do so. Still, this is the first time he's ever had to campaign in a runoff election as a presidential candidate, and it marks a new era for the opposition parties in Turkey. Meanwhile, over in India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's far-right ultra-nationalist governing party suffered a key defeat in a state election in the country's south over the weekend. That sets the stage for the opposition there to put up a real fight during next year's general election. And in Thailand, journalists are calling early results from that country's elections a political earthquake after a youth-led opposition movement roundly defeated the authoritarian, conservative, military-backed regime that took control of the country during a coup nearly a decade ago. And all of that was just in the past few days. Last year, French far-right populist Marine Le Pen lost a presidential election for the second time and stepped down as her party's leader. Not long after that, Brazil's President Bolsonaro, another authoritarian and Trump wannabe, lost re-election to Lula, a popular left-wing leader. Notably, Bolsonaro didn't put up much of a fight before fleeing to Florida, although his supporters did attempt a half-hearted January 6th-style insurrection. And of course, here at home, the actual January the 6th, as awful as it was, only happened because Donald Trump lost by 7 million votes after American voters rejected his neo-fascism and racism. So while we must remain vigilant in the fight against global authoritarianism, and there is a long way to go, those of us who care about the future of global freedom and democracy can breathe a little easier tonight.
So yes, Bolsonaro lost. We had a lot of other right-wingers that have been losing elections because the people really have that fervor for democracy. So while we are still fighting here in the United States as far as whether MAGA will succeed, yes, they're playing the long game, but you know what? Most Americans know better. And in the long run, disinfectant, they'll see the light. They'll definitely see the light in the long run. That's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why there's a Politics Done Right. That's why there is the Majority Report. That's why we're doing all of this. So anyhow, folks, it's time for me to go ahead and ask you to support the program. So please go ahead. If you have the wherewithal to support us as best you can support us at politicsdoneright.com/PayPal with whatever contribution you want to add, or you can support us at politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon, we need a whole lot more patrons to really sort of finally start hiring some folks to help out around here. You can support us at YouTube by clicking that join button on YouTube. It's very inexpensive. Would you mind buying us a coffee a day or two? So let's go ahead and go to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. If you're not on YouTube and you want to join the PDR Posse over YouTube, you can also join the PDR Posse at Facebook by going to politicsdoneright.com/Facebook, politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. Alternatively, you can go to our store, get some t-shirts, etc., to show to help promote the program everywhere that you go. politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com/store as well. We sell our books, and I'm sure you'll get a lot out of our books. politicsdoneright.com/books. Have a great one, Michael Rudnin. Thank you for being here. Now, if you want to find all the different ways in which you can support our program, go to politicsdoneright.com/support, politicsdoneright.com/support. It has all the different forms in which you can support this program. I'm going to be sending out an email later on today. You know, we're heading out to Netroots Nation 2023, where we meet all our progressive activists. I'm going to be making some offers to you. Those who support our trip to Chicago will be featured on every single one of the videos. Your name will scroll on the videos, and for different price points, we'll offer things like a link from our website to wherever you want to go, etc., etc. Should be writing that up today. But anyhow, folks, we got to get out of here. I'm going to be out a few minutes early today. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. How do I end this baby? I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.